share my screen and we can get into the other. Okay.
That started.
Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody to today's session. I'll be taking us on the last aspect of today's session, which is going to be on Power BI service. Power BI service. And aside from Power BI service, I would probably be sharing some tips, some little tricks for us to note while using Power BI. So here's my humble self once again. I'm um, Joseph Fado, a Microsoft certified trainer, business intelligence analyst. But I think most importantly, I will classify myself as a problem solver that uses technology, various technologies and tools to achieve in their goals. So in a particular day, I could be an Excel analyst. In a particular day, I could be a BI analyst. Another particular day, I could be a Power Platform developer. So I move between roles dependent on the particular problems I want to solve. And what I love to do for fun is I love playing chess. So this is a little background about me, your facilitator for today's session. And I'm going to be talking about Power BI essentially. So before we go into way in depth, today's session wouldn't be too long because I know we've covered some fundamental basics beforehand. But I just want to gauge where we are coming from before I go on in today's session. So right now, I'm just going to insert a text box. Let me insert the text box. So right now, I want you guys to please tell me, quickly drop it in the chat, the topics you've covered so far in Power BI. Have you covered data preparation with Power BI? You've covered data preparation with Power BI? Not seeing any response. So I said I like my session to be highly interactive. So it's not the type of session you join and you drop the call. So we ask questions. Okay, so data preparation with Power BI. Is that a yes? Is that a yes? Is that a yes? The chat. Data modeling. Okay, I'm starting to see response. Data modeling. Okay. Data modeling with Power BI. So I'll copy this. So this data modeling, right? Then we have somebody said DAX basics. Okay. DAX measures. And the last thing we did, data visualization. Okay, so we've covered this topic so far in Power BI, and in today we're going to be talking on an important concept which is called Power BI service. Okay, so we have these topics highlighted here. Let me zoom in on my Power BI a bit. Yeah. Okay. Okay, which is good. So today we are going to be talking about Power BI service, and if you see these core concepts which we introduced to you are, if you check anywhere on Power BI, there are core concepts you need to kind of know when you're working with Power BI. So data preparation in the very first step, how do you get your data into Power BI? You use the get data button and you specify what source where your data is coming from, and that takes you to a tool called Power Query, right? Once you've cleaned your data, the next thing is to build a model for your data. And why do we create a model of our data? Who can quickly answer that question? Why we create a model of our data? Anybody from the audience? Why do we create a model? Why do we do data modeling? So anybody, why do we do data modeling? I don't like how a bit of quiet the class is. So I think right now I'll be getting like two volunteers who are willing to speak. So I'm sure there are people actively listening to me. So if you are willing to speak, you can just raise your hands up. So I'll just have like two people who are willing to speak and their mic will be unmuted. Okay, I have Ezonifa and one other person. So your mic will be unmuted. Okay, okay, I can only see a zone. Okay, so please unmute his mic as well. Thank you. So we have data preparation. So the reason why we create, somebody said to establish relationship. Why are you establishing relationship? Don't answer a question with another question. Why are we establishing relationship? What's the point of relationships in Power BI? Okay, so to make it simple, I have this data model on my screen right now. I have this data model on my screen. So first of all, I want somebody to tell me what type of data model is this? Quick, what type of data model is this? Example, you can you can speak if you okay. I can see Feoluwa as well. Somebody said star model. Okay, yes, star model. Okay, I can't hear you, but I can hear your noise. Okay.
One to many.
Interesting concept. So yeah, yeah, you're right as well. But people that say star schema are also right. So star schema, and the relationship direction is flowing from one to many. So I'm doing a bit of recap because before we get into Power BI service, we need to like ensure that we gain the knowledge in Power BI desktop itself, and we're able to easily translate it to Power BI service. So one to many, the one which side is normally on the one side of the relationship and which side is normally on the many side of the relationship.
Dimension table is one, then fact table is many.
Okay. 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 So thank you very much for answering that question. Ife Ife Oluwa. So thank you essentially. So it seems that we actually understood that concept essentially. Now if you see all of these tables in this data model, they typically tend to answer four key questions. And I'm sure if you've probably observed from other people before, maybe other trainers or facilitators before, when they are talking of data model, they normally mention using something called the 4 Ws. By 4 Ws, what I mean by 4 Ws is that all these tables that we have here, they typically four answer like 4 key questions from your data. The who, uh, the who, okay, this is where, sorry, this is the where, you have the where, this is not writing properly. I'll just delete this. So I'll just go back. So we have the answering 4 questions essentially: the who, did, what, where, and why. So your geography table in this data set answers the question of your where it gives you more information about where the particular transaction took place. Your your model, your model gives you more information about like who or what type of model took place in the particular transaction. Your calendar dimension gives you information about when the transaction took place, and your line of business dimension gives you more information about when about who the particular line of business that was involved in this data. So this is a simple data model, a simple star schema where you have your dimensions and your facts table in the center. So now back to the main order of the day. So it also shows that we are actually well versed in data modeling. So DAX measures before I get into the last 2 bit of it. Now, right now, can you see there's a section here where I have called measures tables? Can we see my screen, everybody? Can you see these measure tables on my screen? Right? So I want to ask us, when we create our measures in Power BI, I'm sure we've created some measures in Power BI. Can you see how my measures are arranged in Power BI? This anchor measure, slicer picture, time intelligence measure. Can you see how these are arranged in Power BI? Okay. You can see how it looks on my Power BI interface. You have your anchor, your slicer, your time intelligence measures is arranged this way. Now, when you what I did was I created my measures. If I open this folder, I have measures for different arms of business, different KPIs I want to calculate. I call them my anchors, my different KPIs I want to calculate. If I click on this one, this is a dynamic measure for my slicer picture. Then this one, I call it time intelligence measures. And under this time intelligence measures, you have further measures inside. So what I just did is something called measure arranging. So arranging your measures in a neat way so that you can easily locate it by placing them in folders. So when you create a measure in DAX, let's do a simple new measure. Because I already have sales, I'll call this T underscore sales or so equals to sum my sales, pack sales revenue. Let me just call this pack sales revenue, and I close my brackets. This is writing a simple measure in Power BI. If I click on this commit button, it adds that measure to my Power BI. But if you notice, this measure is not in any of these folders. It's not in this anchor measure. It's not in this time intelligence measure folder. So for you to place it in the folder, and the reason why you may want to do this is when you're working in Power BI, when you're working on projects, you may not be working on projects in isolation. In isolation, I mean on your own. So somebody else may pick your project and may need to know where your key measures or key information are. And you can easily do that by keeping them in folders and using comments for your measures, using comments for your measures. So right now, if I want to add a comment to this measure, I can use the two slash button and I can say this gives me the total sales or the total sales in the fact table or something like that. Now, this is not part of the calculation that will take place, but this comment, as I've kept it like this, will just be useful for anybody else that wants to take this report and see and visualize and use the report for something else. So anybody that wants to take the report can see this gives me the total sales in fact table. So for me to arrange this measure that I've created to a particular folder, I can come to my model view. Right now, you can see I'm on this under the model view. You have your report table view and your model view. I am on the sales measure that I've created right now called sales. If I click on this button to expand, I can expand it, and you have something called properties under the sales measure. And under these properties, you can do a whole lot of things under these properties. A lot of people don't explore these properties, but beyond, you can move where the measure is stored. It's stored in my measure table. If I want to move it to another table, I can do that. If I want to enter a description of my measure, I can do that. If I want to create a description with Copilot, I can do that as well. I'm not doing that right now. But if I want to add it into a folder, a particular display folder, I can either type the name of the folder I want to add it. If the folder is not here, it will create a new folder for it. But if I want to just move it to a pre-existing folder, I can just use my key button like this and I can move it to this anchor measure. The moment I've moved it to this anchor measures, you can see it's in this folder and it's nice and neatly placed together. And under your folders, you can create subfolders under your folders, but that's just something that I believe we should know, because when we're working with DAX, it's also nice to structure our DAX properly. So we have various DAX measures. You have your sum, your count, your mean, your max. I'm not going to be talking on DAX per se today or data visualization. I'm going to be talking on Power BI service. Power BI service. But I led the first part of today's session uh, to be a recap session for all those who may have not been joining all the sessions so far, or for all those that probably had questions as well. Okay. So right now I'm on my home page. I'm on my home page of this report. Now the reason why we use data visualization is essentially after you build your report, after you build your report in Power BI desktop, you need to share that report with somebody, with probably a particular team. You need to post it on your website. You need to share it via email. You need to probably set some automation for how your report will be refreshed on a day-to-day basis. For you to do that, you need the service version of Power BI service for you to publish the reports, publish this report. Now I have a simple report which I created, for instance, and I probably want to post this on my website. I probably want to post it on my LinkedIn. I want to share it with some other people. And I want this report to be refreshed probably every single day, every 3 weeks, every 2 weeks. How would I go about doing it? Essentially, which is what I'm going to be covering largely in today's session. So right here we have the data for the pages for the report. Let me just show it to everybody. You have a simple IBCS styled report. So this is a report that shows just the sales breakdown and the sales by the model, and this just gives you an overview of sales by region in comparison to previous year and previous year for the line of business, sales manager, and the model sales. And this is a normal dark team report. This is a normal dark team report, essentially, which allows you to, if I click on this image, for example, it filters my reports to the particular line of business, this part. If I click on this, it filters my reports to the particular line of business, this printer sales. If I click on this image, it filters my report to service plan. If I click on this, it filters my report to whatever I want. And if I click on the year as well, filters my report to the particular year. So this 2014, this 2015, 2015. So this is a simple report created with Power BI. So you have this and the very first one created with Power BI. And I probably want to share this with people so that they can use the report and digest the report. Now, before I go ahead to share this report, another requirement that we need to know is that there are three components of Power BI essentially. You have Power BI desktop, which is the version right now on your laptop. You have Power BI service, which is the cloud version of Power BI, which we are going to be getting into that. And you have Power BI mobile. Power BI mobile is essentially like the mobile version of Power BI where you can digest your report on your phone. Now, if you are using the latest Power BI and you've been up to date on Power BI development, you will notice that below here, that beyond just this desktop layout that you have here, you have something called mobile layout. So you can build reports for just phone specific that consumption. So if I want to create a report that will just be for my phone to be viewed on my phone, I can click on this mobile layout. Let me probably do it for this IBCS style report. I can click on this mobile layout and I can either click on this button to auto create mobile layout. It will create it based on my normal reports I have on my Power BI desktop, or I can start manually adding fields to my mobile layout. Let me click on the auto create so that you also see this. So if you see, once I clicked on this auto create mobile layout, it creates the report in a phone like view so that I can see how it would probably look. Now you can also leave it in a desktop view and view it on your phone. But the advantage of this mobile layout is that you can build reports specifically for phone consumption. So if people will be consuming your report specifically on their mobile device, you can use the phone layout to do that. I'll just switch back to the desktop layout. Okay. So okay. So right now, what we want to do right now, like I said, is we want to publish the report to our Power BI, to our Power BI service or Power BI platform that we have online. And for us to do this, the very first thing you need to be on your home tab and you see this publish button. this publish button on any report you have. You first save the report and can you hear me? Can you see my screen? Hope there's no lag.
Yes, I can hear you, Joseph.
Yeah, I can also
Hope
hear
I'm
you
not
too.
hope I'm not going too fast. Hope my paste is good. Okay, before I go ahead to do the publish of the reports, because like I said, like today's session won't be too long essentially. Okay. Before I go ahead on publishing the report, first of all, do you like the report you can see? Do you have any question for me on probably building this type of report before I go ahead to publishing the report? So this is the first one, this is the second one. Okay. Okay, so any question on building this type of report before I go ahead to publish it. Okay, so I take that as no. Okay, so no problem.
I
So
have
for
a
you to
question.
publish, okay, go ahead. Christy.
That's good evening, sir. That graph, yes, those ones showing red and blue. Please, what type of graph is that?
Okay, so this is a type of visualization in Power BI. You can do right now. You can do this with normal using bar charts in Power BI. You can create this type of visualization using bar charts in Power BI, but you can also use custom visualization in Power BI. So by custom visualization, I mean right now on your Power BI, I'm sure you may not probably have all the visualization I have on my screen, but you have different, you can add more visualization option to your Power BI dependent on what you want to, the story you want to tell your audience. And for you to do that is if you click on this, get more visuals, you can get more visuals from a place we call the marketplace or the app store for Power BI. Now, I think it will require you to sign in, which is also a key component for what we want to do next. It may require you to sign in. But underneath these more visuals, there are a whole lot of visualizations you can use dependent on what you want, the story you want to tell in Power BI. I think there are more than 400 plus in this app space. So for example, if I want to create like a search button in my visualization, I can use this text search slicer. If I want to use water cap, I can use it. There's also one nice type of visualization which which people which you may find interesting. There's something called infographics visualization. Let me see if it's still available. Okay, so there's a particular visualization called infographics. There are a whole lot of visualization here, but what that infographics allow you to do is you can create. Let me see if I already added it. Maybe I added it. Let's see. Okay, infographic designer. So I'll just add a page. So if I click on this infographic designer, it doesn't really work well with the new Power BI visual that we have, the new Power BI data we have now. So, but I just want to select, let's say, the sales and the region. So by default, this is showing me a column. If I want to change it, if I want to change this shape from a column to probably a, let me select under the options, instead of shape, I want to change it to a food or drink. I can select this. Okay, can you see this?
Yes.
Yeah. So I can change it from, I can change the visualization from that column to this. You can even add an image if you want to. Under insert shape, let's say I can use burger for example. Maybe delete the other one. Can you see this upload? You can upload an image. If you want to show your data, maybe you want to use money. I think money is normally a good one. Let me skip to, let me see. So I can just, let me Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z. Let me see. What do you do? Yeah, but that's that visualization essentially. So you can use it to, you can add more as much shapes as you want. So under this option, I can change this. Instead of this, let me use money. And it's how you tell your story with the data that matters essentially. So let me see. Pick one. Okay. Shape two. Let me see. I can probably not. I can just decide to only use one shape. But you can see I have this shape. So this is money, and it depends on what sort of story I want to tell with my data. You can use this. So it's called, the name of the visualization is called infographics visualization, infographic designer. So you can add it to your visuals. You can add your own image. So instead of using your normal column or your normal bar chart, you can play around with it and do whatever visualization you want. Now, the particular one I used was a type of IBCS type of chart. IBCS is called the International Business Communication Standard. They have various charts that allows you to easily create this. But right now in the new Power BI, I can create this with normal bar charts. There's a way you can manipulate your Power BI visualization to create this. Essentially, it's just a bit stressful, but you can create this. So the type of visual I used is you have an info river visualization, you have Zebra BI. Any of them can allow you to create this visualization you want. And for this other one that we had here, so I'm sure people are not asking, oh, this image I'm clicking on, how am I getting the image to filter the report? It's also using the new Power BI visualization that you have. With the new slicer in Power BI, you can create this type of filter with your Power BI. So the reason why I'm showing us all this is that there's a whole lot you can still explore once you are done with the session. There's a whole lot. We will share resources as well. So for you to keep on learning. The truth is your learning never stops. You learn, you learn. Even me till this day, I keep on learning. So you learn, you learn, and you will learn. So don't relent. There are a lot of stuff you can do with Power BI as well. Okay, so right now I'm going to be talking about the publishing. Now, for you to publish your report, which is where we are going to go to Power BI service, you need a Power BI license to publish your reports. So by default, when you are using Power BI, you are using the free version of Power BI, Power BI desktop. You can use Power BI desktop to create your visualization. But when you need to share these reports with somebody, a team or a management, you need a Power BI license. Now, if you don't have the license, if you don't have the license, and if you have an Office 365 account, you can sign up for a trial. You can sign up for a trial. Let me show. You can sign up for a trial. If you go to, let me just minimize this a bit. If you go to Power BI Pro trial. You can sign up for a trial for Power BI Pro. Let me see. Okay, so you can see this try for free. This is the Power BI service which we will be getting into soon. You can click on this try for free. And once you click on this try for free, what it will ask you to provide is it will either ask you to sign into your account. If you sign into an account that doesn't have a Power BI license, let me even copy this and paste it in an incognito browser. Let me use my. So can you see this? So see, you can't sign in here with a personal account. Use your work or school account instead. So what this means is for you to sign up for this, you can, if you have a work or a school account, maybe your Outlook, not your Outlook, your office account probably, or your school account. You're in a university, a tertiary institution, and you have a school email account, you can sign up for this for using Power BI Pro on Power BI Pro essentially. So the beauty of using it is it allows you to use Power BI service, which we are going to get into essentially. So once you have that account, once you have the Power BI account, the next thing you need to do is you click on this publish report. Now, once I click on publish report, it will ask me to save. It's always good to save your work before you publish. And the moment I've saved my work, it's going to load. And right here, I have published to Power BI. I have different destinations which I can publish my reports to. And these destinations are something called workspace. A workspace is an environment that houses all your reports, your data sets, essentially in Power BI. So that's what a workspace is. It houses all your reports you build in Power BI in a particular workspace. So right now, I have various workspace created, but for you, if you just sign up for Power BI, or if you are just using Power BI service for the first time, if your company has an E5 Microsoft 365 license, you have Power BI license attached to it, to that subscription. So, but if you are not working in that, if you don't have an organization that has one, you can sign up for a Office 365 trial, and you can now use that to sign up for a Power BI Pro trial. Or you can even, if you have an Office 365 personal, let's say, I think it's business, the normal business plan, you can use it to sign up for a Power BI Pro trial. So right here, we have this published to Power BI. You will have various workspace dependent on the workspace you created in your Power BI service. Me, I just have, for you and for everybody, the default workspace is something called my workspace. My workspace is where your workspace is, and I can click on select. Okay, so I have this because I published it before. It's telling me this. Let me even change the workspace I want to publish to. So you can publish to my workspace, but I don't want to publish the same reports to the same workspace over again. So I can, let me just use one of the workspace which I have right now. Let me I'll use the fabric, and I'll click on, or let me use training workspace, and I'll click on select. The moment I've selected the workspace, it will publish my report to Power BI service. And once it's done, I have this open your report in Power BI. Now there's one beautiful thing that most people don't do. Most people just click on this open. But the beautiful thing is if you copy this link or if you click on this link, so I'm gonna click on this, it will ask me to sign in. I'll just go to the browser that I have. So I'll just come here and I'll paste the link here. So if you let me go back, the link I clicked on was something called Get Quick Insights. Get Quick Insights. So once you publish your report on Power BI service, Power BI service will scan your data for you. And if there are additional insight or information you missed out of adding in your data, Power BI service will recommend for you to add some specific visualization. Power BI service will recommend for you to add some specific visualization. So now, again, searching for insights, so scanning my data to search for additional insight or information I may have missed out of for my data. Now, the moment it has done that, it has recommended various reports I could have probably calculated. Units sold and count of market. I could have done this. Probably I didn't see the need of count of D model by line of business. This is a report I could have created. And it showed me various reports that I could have created essentially if I wanted to create it with my Power BI itself. Now, if I like the report, I can click on this pin visual and I can add it to a dashboard. We'll get to the dashboard later on, but I can add it to a dashboard essentially in Power BI. So this is the quick insights. Once you publish a report by default, you have this quick insights based on your data. Power BI will suggest some recommended visualization for you. Now the data we publish, the report we publish, the report we publish, this is the cloud version of Power BI, which we call Power BI service. Power BI service. And right now I'm in a place called the training workspace. Training workspace. Like I said, your workspace is a place that houses your reports, your data set in your data. So you have the name of your report and the data set you have. So when you publish a report, you have the name and the data set you have in the workspace. And under your workspace, you have something called access. So you have various rules and security attached to a workspace that you have. Now, I won't be getting into that right now, but it's something that we should do. But for us to see, when we get to once we publish our reports to Power BI service, I can click on this my reports right here on Power BI service, which is what a large majority of us will be doing probably on Power BI service. Now, once I click on this report, which we have here, I have various pages on the report. Once I click on this report that we have here, you see this. I have various options on how to share my reports with specific people. So if I want to probably export the data to analyze it in Excel, and this is one of the most requested feature in Power BI. People like asking for analyze your data in Excel. Can we see it in Excel? This is an option for you to do. Once I click on this, it gets me the data in Excel format. If I want to export the data into a PowerPoint presentation, I can export it. If I want to save it as PDF, I can export it as PDF here. Now, I also have the option, if I click on this share, if I want to share it with a team member, let's say somebody from my particular organization, I can add the name of the individual I want to share it with, and I can send it to the person from my organization to use the report. Now, the same goes with chats in Teams. If I want to add it to Teams directly, I can add it to Teams. If I want to publish it to my website, so if you have a website, for example, and you want to probably share the reports you built in Power BI, you want to keep it in your website, you can do that in Power BI. So you have these various options. You can save a copy of the report. You can download the Power BI file. You can manage permission. By managing permission, what you do is you can restrict who has access to viewing certain things in your workspace. So you can, who has direct access, I can remove the people that have direct access, and I can add or remove people from accessing the data from my workspace. So that's just something I wanted to show. So right here under this page, which we have, so I'll click on this file button. So you can see this embed reports. So I can, if I want to add it to a SharePoint online, I can do it. If I want to add it to a website or portal, what this will do is it will give me the iframe of the reports, and I can share this with my developer. The developers will know how to adequately, easily add it to my website. But if I just want to probably get a link, probably to post on my social media handle, click on this embed report and publish to the web. Publish to the web. It's Power BI will tell me that publishing to the web, you are sharing content to be publicly available by anyone elsewhere. The moment I agree with that, I can click on continue and I can click on publish. Now, once I've published that data, that report to the web, I can copy the link. I can copy the link of the report and I can start to share it with anybody. I can even share it with us on this call right now. So if you see, by default, it will start from the page you click on publish to the web. If I want to change the page to, let's say I want the home page to be the very first page anybody that has the report to see, I'll change the default page to the home page and I'll copy this link. And with this link, I can go ahead to start sharing it with, let me even share it with us on this call. I can share this link with us on this call. So, and I can do Ctrl Shift and let me paste this link like this. So this is a private incognito browser, and under the browser I can see the reports. The reports I've created as a private person, so I don't have to sign in. And it's always good to test it if you are going to post it online. It's always good to test it. You don't have to sign in. Anybody can see your work. Is a way to show your hard-earned work that you want to do, essentially. So I have the guide, the IBCS style report, the dark team report, so I can go through the report and begin to see all the things I've created so far in it. So that's the very first thing to note. So you can publish the report to the you can publish it to the web and you can always view it. Now you can export it to PowerPoint. Let me show that option. So if I click on export to PowerPoint, I have this live link, this embed live data. And what I just need to do is I can copy this, or I can open a PowerPoint presentation. Let me even click on open a PowerPoint. And under my PowerPoint, I get um, it's still loading. I get the reports which I've added. It will show in my PowerPoint presentation. The moment is done loading. So I have the report live and direct in my PowerPoint presentation. The beauty of this is that it allows you to present. Probably you have other slides you want to present in PowerPoint. You can just add the report you built in Power BI directly to your PowerPoint presentation, and that way um, they are able to see the report, interact with the reports, and they are able to, while on the same presentation, rather than going back to probably Power BI, moving from PowerPoint to Power BI, you can, while on the same presentation, they can see the PowerPoint slide generated. So if you see this, I can click on the slicers and they will still work the same way they work on Power BI. It will still work. It embeds the report live and direct on my from my PowerPoint to my Power BI. So it shows in my PowerPoint and I can present with the data, with the report I have, essentially. Now, if I want to save it as a PDF under the file, I can click on the file, and under the export, I can click on the export and save it as a PDF. Now, one other thing we need to note is you can do something called subscribe to the report. Subscribe to the report. Now, if I click on subscribe to the report, what this will show is you can create subscription. And what subscription allows you to do is, if you want to see like a screenshot of your reports, you set automation so your report automatically updates probably periodically. And you want to see like a screenshot of your report every single day, every single week. You want it to be sent to you, to send to somebody in your organization, somebody in your company. You can add the person to this subscription. You can add the person to this subscription. You can try to, attach full reports. If you want to still attach something, you can attach that, but there's no need to do that right now. You can add the people you want to send this to. And the moment you do that, you can set the date and the time, and you can click on the save button. The save button. Once I click on this save button, it will automatically be sending me screenshot of my reports pages based on the data I have. Yes, I have. Now, a quick thing to note is the things you can do on Power BI service largely depends on your permission. By permission, I mean by the permission you've been granted in that workspace, that you are in that workspace that you are in. So you can go ahead to create a workspace if you don't have a, if you just have your own personal workspace, my workspace, you can click on the, under the workspaces, you can click on new workspace, and I'll call this DQ demo. I will delete this workspace. I have to delete it. Too much workspace is not good. So I'll call it DQ demo. And what I'll just do is I'll click on apply. You can add a domain. This is more Fabric. We're not talking of Fabric right now. So I can click on this and I can click on apply. And the moment I've done this, I've added a workspace. And remember, I said a workspace is the place that houses your data, your reports, your flows in your Power BI, your data flows and your data marts in your Power BI. So this is a workspace. I've created a new workspace. Now, once you've created a new workspace, you can manage access to the workspace. Right now, I'm the sole owner of this workspace. So I'm the only one in this workspace. If I want to add people to the workspace, I can click on add people. And let me say I want to add Busola or so to the workspace. I can specify Busola's name. And underneath this option, I have various privileges I can add. I can add the person to the workspace. You have something called viewer, admin, member, contributor. Viewer, admin, member, contributor. After this session, I'll be sharing with us a link so we can further study on this. But the thing is, dependent on the level of permission you are granted, it shows the amount of things you can do on your particular workspace. Now, for those who are probably just starting, you may not get to the point of probably even adding people to workspaces. But it's important. The reason why we are covering this concept is later in the future, you may need this session. You may need this session where you need to know, oh, how can I share reports with people? Because if you are working in a proper organization, you would probably get to a point where you start sharing reports with people. You start uh, you start managing workspaces. As you grow on in your level, you start doing some of these roles. So right now, the default role is viewer. What viewer means is they can only view things in that workspace. They cannot edit certain element of the workspace. Contributor means they can edit some part of the workspace. They can add some bit of things to the workspace, but they don't have full rights to the workspace. And member has more privilege than contributor, but he doesn't still have full rights. Is the admin that has the most privilege in your workspace. So your admin can set whatever permission he or she wants to set to your workspace, essentially. So these are 4 rules that you need to note in when you're adding people to your workspace. So right now I can add Busola to this workspace as a probably a viewer, which is the default role that she will have. And once I've sent it to her, she will get an email, and once I go back and check the manage people, I should see her included in the workspace. So she has access to the workspace. If you've not granted somebody access to the workspace, they wouldn't be able to check certain elements of your workspace. Another thing, the reason why I mentioned that right now is based on the data that we have here. I showed us how we can share our reports with the public, with the general public. If you want to, if you want to be able to do that, you must have been granted permission to share your reports by a role called the Power BI or the Power Platform admin. So under the setting button, I'll click on the setting button. You have a section of Power BI called the admin portal. Under this admin portal, this is only applicable to people that are admins of their particular Power Platform or Microsoft Fabric environment. So you have under these options, you have option to enable or disable things for the particular organization, your particular business. So if you want to restrict people from adding workspace, adding various things, under these tenant settings, you can come here and restrict what people can do in your workspace. By default, you have this publish to web will be disabled for your workspace. So if you already have a Power BI license and you're wondering, I can't do publish to web, it's telling me to come to the admin stuff, you have to probably request that your admin should grant you access to publish your reports to the web. Once they grant you access, it's just as easy as clicking on this button, come here, I can enable it. Now I have different options. I have three options. If I want to enable it for my entire organization, I can select it for only specific security groups. Security groups are like in your organization, you have sales, you have finance, you have marketing. So, so dependent on like your department can be your security groups. So if you want to just share your data with your department, you can do that. If you want to specify the security groups that shouldn't have access to your reports, you can do that here. So, but this is admin privilege, and I'm not sure all of us we have the right for admin, but what the admin does is it manages all of these assets. It can grant access and remove access to certain things in your Power BI environment. Now, back to the last course. I'll just talk about two more concepts that we need to know in Power BI service. Then we'll get to we'll call it a day. But so far I've been talking. I've been talking, which I don't like doing much. But I want to ask any question thus far. Are we following? Did we grab a thing or two from what I said?
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt. Joseph, so there are some questions in the chat box while you were displaying the dashboard page.
Okay.
You can go through the chat
Okay.
box, yeah.
Yeah, I'll get to those questions towards the end because that will take me back to Power BI desktop. But before I go back to Power BI desktop, which I'll go at the end. But any question on what I've shown so far before we do the last bit of it so
Hello?
far? Any question? Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Well, I have a personal domain I used in creating my Power BI service, using signing in Power BI service. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Now, I tried to create a visualization after I used that same logins to log in my Power BI desktop. But now they are telling me I can't. Map and field visuals are not enabled by my admin. So I don't know how to go about that.
Okay, so you said is your personal domain, right? So is
Yes,
it like
yes,
a
it
developer
is.
account, if I'm not mistaken? So
Eh?
the accounts you have, is it like a developer account?
Yes,
Yeah, so you are the Power BI admin, right? Have you come to Power BI service before?
yes, I have.
Okay. And under your settings, under your settings, do you have admin portal?
I have admin portal, but I don't have tenant settings.
Okay. You don't have tenant settings.
I don't have tenant settings.
Okay, so I don't think you're the admin of that works of that your account. Yeah, sure.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, so if you are the administrator, you should actually have access to tenant settings, unless if there's probably an admin who is above your admin privilege in your organization. But you know what? It's something you can message me. We can look through it as well. But if you have access to tenant settings, all you just need to do is come to the tenant settings, and there's a section where you have for block map visuals for your organization. So you can enable it. Let me see. Um, there's a section for map visuals. So you can easily enable it. Now, another alternative that you can do if you don't have Azure, because I'm sure it's the Azure map you're trying to use, right? The Azure
Yes.
or one of the maps. Another map you can do, another map you can do on Power BI desktop, you have access to something called a shape. There's another type of visualization called a shape map. But
Okay.
this one, configuring it is a little bit technical. So the that's what's up with my system. So under the build, I have access to something called the shape map. So the shape map, what this one wouldn't require you to have admin access, but you may not see it by default on your Power BI. What you need to do is go to your file, go to your file tab. If you go to options and settings, click on options and scroll to preview features. And scroll to preview features. Under preview features, you can see this shape map. I've enabled it. So under these preview features, what happens is how Microsoft release their updates is Microsoft doesn't release their update. Microsoft release updates every single month. For how it releases its Power BI updates, it first releases it to some section of the public before it now releases it to the global audience. So by some section of the public, I mean, it allows you to decide if you want to turn on the preview feature. And based on the feedback they get from the preview feature, they can decide to add it as a normal feature into Power BI. It won't be under preview features again, or they can decide to remove it from preview features. So under the preview features, you have shape map. You can click on this and you can click on OK. So that map is a little bit not really too technical to configure. If you there are resources on how to configure shape map, but that will allow you to add a map as well without the limitation you are facing.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Okay, so far so good. I think we're all following, which is good. Now, so for our reports, which I said, when we publish a report, I said you publish two things. You publish a report and something called a semantic model, which was previously called a data set. Under your workspace, you can see all the items you published on your workspace. So right now, the beauty of this semantic model or this data set is if you want to refresh your data, let's say your data is updated, you want to refresh it, you can click on this refresh button to refresh your data, but you can go ahead to do something called a schedule refresh. A schedule refresh. And what this schedule refresh will allow you to do is you don't have to be cleaning your data every single day, every single week. You don't have to be preparing your data or preparing reports every week or every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. Prepare one report, have your data set clean, sorted, well, well presented, and you can schedule the refresh and be doing other things with your life. So under the data set that we have, the settings for the data set, you have a section which is called gateways and cloud connections. Now, I could talk on this maybe we could talk on this maybe later. But what gateways is if you have a process, if your data is stored on your device, not on the cloud, it's not stored on OneDrive or SharePoint or a website or an online source. An online source is probably stored on a database. You will need to configure something called a gateway. If it's stored on your SQL database, let's say your Postgres SQL database, your SSMS database, not you may need to configure a gateway for you. The reason why you need to configure a gateway is it allows your Power BI to connect with that on-premise data system that you have, and also for security purpose. That's also another reason why you configure gateway. Now you have a section called refresh. Under this refresh, you can decide to schedule your refresh based on a particular timing that you have based on your data. You can set the refresh for your data. Now, the reason why I can't set this refresh is because my data, unfortunately, is on my system. It's not on the online source. If I put it on an online source, all I'll just need to do is easily set this up. But for me to configure that refresh, I can come here and I can set a gateway for my system. Now I won't be touching that. I won't be touching that today because it's a whole huge load of process. But if your data is on an online source, you just need to come to refresh, set the time period you want it to refresh, and you can click on apply, and your data is refreshed based on that. You have a section for data connections. You can disconnect this item from data sources if you want. And you have something called endorsements. Now, what this endorsement means is your data set, if you want to recommend it to people in your organization to probably build other reports from, you can do something called promoted. And what will happen is when they sign into Power BI service, they get your data set as promoted data set. If you want to certify it, it has that it will have like a certification badge on your data set. So people in your organization can use your data set, and you have master data as well. These are some of the things to let people to discover your data sets more often. So you have various sections of this. The part that you may probably find very useful, which I will employ you to try. If your data is on OneDrive, SharePoint is easy to schedule the refresh, set the refresh by yourself, and you can set it up from your section under your data set settings, and you will be able to schedule your refresh. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about is dashboards. Is dashboards in Power BI. Okay, I've actually been talking for a while. Okay, so dashboards. Now it's important to note that dashboards are different. Dashboards are different from your data sets. Dashboards are different from your reports in Power BI. What we have, everything you do on Power BI desktop, in context of Power BI, I know there's the literal meaning of dashboard as a snapshot of your report. I'm not talking of that. But in context of Power BI and Power BI service is concerned, everything you do on Power BI desktop is considered as reports. Where you actually build your dashboards in Power BI is your Power BI service. That's the distinction between the two. Everything, I'll say it again, everything you do on Power BI desktop is considered to be report in context to Power BI. But where you build out dashboards is your Power BI service. Now, there are various ways to create dashboard in Power BI service. So one thing I'm going to do is, if I click on this report that I am on, if you see on this report that I'm on, I can click on these three ellipses and I have something called pin to a dashboard. Pin to a dashboard. I can click on this pin to a dashboard. And what this will do is it will pin the entire report page to a dashboard that I have in Power BI service. So that's what it will do. Once I click on this pin to dashboard, And I can call the dashboard, let me call it sales, probably our sales dashboard. And I can click on pin live. So the moment I click on this pin live, it will pin the entire report to a dashboard. Now I can click on go to dashboard. So let's see the difference between the report and the dashboard. Now this essentially is a dashboard in Power BI service. Now under this dashboard, I have something called Q&A, which is a type of report. You could have added it to our desktop file, but under this Q&A, I can ask a question based on my data, and I can pin it into my dashboard. Let me select this. The revenue by. I can click on pin visual. Yes, and it will pin it to that dashboard. If I scroll down a bit, I have this visual pin below this report I have here. Now, so what's the key distinction between the two, apart from the fact that Power BI dashboards are built in Power BI service? For your dashboards, you can add elements to your dashboard. You can add something called a tile to your dashboard. If I click on this edit, I can add a tile to my dashboard. And what the tile is if I want to add a web content, if I want to add a YouTube video to my dashboard, I can do it here. I can click on web content and I can scroll down and click on next. Let me just call this Datakliq Cohort 5 class. Let me say class 4 or something. I'll just, and what I'll do is let me go to our YouTube channel. I can paste the link. Let's go to YouTube. I'll go to our YouTube channel. I can copy one of our videos which we've created before. Datakliq. Let me say this video, for instance. I can copy this video. Now return back to this my Power BI service. Click on embed content and I can click on apply. Now if I scroll down, okay, let me edit details. Okay, let me remove embed code. I'll just paste the URL. I think that will be. No, I'll open it in a different tab. So let me delete this tile and then we apply. Click on this click on this edit. Under this edit option, I can add a tile. And like I said, I can add a web content. I can even directly add a video. You can see the video. Okay, the video is YouTube URL, so it's even a lot easier. I can call this Datakliq Power BI Cohort 5 day 4. And I can click on apply. So we have this YouTube link in the dashboard itself. Below this, I have these tabs in my dashboard essentially. So in dashboard, you can add something called tiles to your dashboard. You can also create alerts in your dashboard. So by alerts, I mean, if I click on this visualization, for example, so let me click on edit. I can edit the dashboard. I can change the dashboard theme. And the same way I did subscribe to dashboard, subscribe to report, I can subscribe to a dashboard essentially. So what this allows you to do is you can add various styles. If you want to add streaming a real-time data, if you want to add a custom streaming data, you can add it to your dashboard, and you can add images and text as well to your dashboard. So this is dashboards, slightly different from reports that you have in your Power BI, uh, your Power BI service, your Power BI service. So with that, I think we've covered a huge load of content and concepts. Like I said, to some of us, some of this may not be too applicable as at now, but trust me, as you go on in your Power BI journey, if you want a Power BI role per se, a Power BI Power BI developer role, you need to know these concepts for you to work on a job. What I just taught us today, most people struggle a lot with this. So I will implore you, watch the video. Don't just watch the video. If you want to sign up, you can sign up to practice for free. You can sign up for a trial account to practice for free. Or I think the limitation is like 1 month or more. You can practice for free to learn if you want to learn. If you already have an organization account that has Power BI, you can practice all these things I'm doing. If you have a school account as well that has Power BI, you can practice all these things I'm doing. So with that being said, I think we have our quiz, then our evaluation. But before I go on to the evaluation, now is the time to ask questions. Questions on Power BI, questions on what we did today in today's session. Questions. I didn't even get a hand. Like or is it that I didn't try today? I've been talking. I've been talking today. So questions, comments. Are people with me? Hope people don't just join the call. Hello. Questions. So no question on Power BI so far. I'll take our all experts. Experts
You
on
said
Power
you're
BI.
going to attend.
Okay, so I'll go back to the deck. So the person that asked, how did I get the year-on-year value? So it's a variance calculation. So under this time intelligence, let me go to like revenue year-on-year. So under this calculation, it's just simple. You divide your actual revenue minus your previous year revenue divided by your previous year revenue. So it's a variance calculation. You do actual minus previous year divided by previous year value. Okay, so the other question that somebody asked, how do you insert those buttons okay, so how do you insert those buttons? It's very, very easy. In your Power BI, you can add under this insert tab, you can add a button. You can add a button. So you have various buttons. you can add either any of these icons, but if you want to add your own type of button, you can add a blank button. Now, once you add this blank button, you can go ahead to customize it however you want. If I want this button to be an image, I can click on this format button, scroll on this button style. Under this icon, I can change it from blank to probably an image. Custom, I change it from custom, and I can change it to probably, let's say Paul. I don't know who Paul is doing there, but I can change it to that image, right? So let me see. I'll click on fit. Oh, Paul was actually a blank picture. I just remembered. Can say, let me select one other picture. Don't know what this image are. Quick disclaimer. Okay, this is my image. So if I want this image to be my button, I can use this image. If I don't want to have an image and I just want to probably have a text, I can select text and I can type what I want. Joseph. And type what I want. Let me remove this icon. So with that, I have this as a button. Now, the next thing I will want to probably do is for me to allow you to navigate to the next page, I can click on this action. Under this action, I can click on this drop down and I can click on, instead of doing back, I can click on this type and click on page navigation, and I can select the page navigation to whatever page I want it to go to. Let's say the guide, the overview page, and to test it, I can use my control key and I can click on it and it will take me to that page. So that's how I set that up. Now, the reason why I'm asking if we have questions is we have a quiz for us, and it shouldn't. I don't want a situation where it will be like, we didn't know these things, we didn't cover these things. So before I share the quiz, any question? Moment I seal my lips, the moment I see my lips is whatever we see. And this quiz is like 20 questions, I think. Okay. Okay, so that's I'll share the link in the chat. So one moment.
Someone is raising a hand.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Thank you. Okay.
You have the
So
mic,
go
you can
ahead.
speak.
Okay, thank you so much for today's section. So my question is still on the year-on-year growth. So to calculate growth rates, we usually use a formula that's like current year minus previous year divided by the previous year. But yeah, you use the total revenue instead of the current revenue, like the current value of like the current revenue of the current year minus the previous year's revenue. I don't know if I'm making sense.
I understand your point. Though there are two in this calculation, in this particular data, there are just 2 years. So I understand your point. So there are 2 years, and there are 2 years essentially in this calculation. So yeah, that's why I did that. But hold on. Why is my system acting this way? Just have to restart it. Okay, so what you are saying is how you do your own calculation is you do the current year value, right?
Yes.
Minus the previous year value divided by the previous year value.
Previous value.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if that's how you do yours, right? Right. Okay, just one minute. Just need to sort this question. Okay, I'll drop the quiz in chat. So if that's how you do yours, I wouldn't necessarily say that is wrong because I understand your logic. That's growth percentage growth rate in econs, right? Or finance, right? So I'll just say is okay. Yeah, so the reason why I did that was that's the ideal way to calculate it. But for your methods, I'm still thinking of it. It should still work. It should still work. But you know what? There's a there's a site, and this is one other thing that will drop for us. This is one other key element I'll drop for us. So if you need to know how to probably calculate some certain measures, right? Apart from using GPT, which most people use, there's a site that can largely help you with your DAX. So there's a site called dax.guide. I always recommend it to people. So under dax.guide, it gives you it's like a book of how to calculate various measures and various based on what you want to do. And there's also another site called dax pattern. The dax.patterns. I think is it dax.patterns or dax patterns. I don't really recall. So what this would help you to do is by studying them, studying the patterns, you can know how to do some certain calculation. Like let's take for example, let me check year on year DAX. Understand? So year on year DAX measure. So, okay, this is the community. Okay, I want to see. Okay, so this is your. I was hoping it opens in the DAX guide. So, this DAX patterns is a site you find really, really useful. So for
Hello,
various
sir.
calculations, yeah, I can hear you.
Hello,
Hold
sir.
on one moment.
The link is not working.
The quiz link is not working.
Yeah. Yes.
My network like this. I didn't hear you.
The link to the quiz is not working. They are saying we need permission to view.
Need permission to view. Okay. I'll get back to you. I'll get back to that. So just for the person that asked that question, so I'll just drop this link in the chat. So
No problem. Thank you so much, sir.
you're welcome. So which link exactly did I share? This I think my system is acting a bit up. So hold on one moment. I'll share the quiz link. Let me see. Collect response. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. So I'm sharing the new link in the chat. So please, everybody, let's use the new link for the quiz. I've sent the new link in the chat. So let's fill the quiz as well. Okay, so what I wanted to tell you, the person that asked that brilliant question was under the DAX guide. Under the DAX guide, So what? So this is also what I wanted to say. The total sales actually calculate the current year sales value. But that's just by the way. Under the DAX pattern, you have various for calculations like that. You have various patterns that people have already kind of this wonderful company called SQL BI. They've created DAX for them so that you already know. Like if you want to calculate like to like comparison, there are some patterns that people have generated for those type of calculations. So you can see some similar patterns and know if they fit into your particular use case scenario or problem that you want to solve. Now, another helpful tips is that I know we know this, but there's Copilot already in Power BI. There's Copilot in Power BI. You can use GPT or whatever tool you want to use. But if I want to create a measure and probably I've not used the measure before, or I don't know how to probably go about creating the measure, I can click on this measure button and click on new quick measure. And under this new quick measure, there are some preset calculations that have already been done in Power BI that you can automatically use, like this year over year change. I can use this measure. All I just need to specify is the base value, the dates, and the time. And you have this option called suggestion with Copilot. So now it's graded out. Okay, so now it's restricted to only people that have Copilot access. It wasn't this way before. But like I said, Microsoft keeps on updating things. But year on year change, I can select this. It will ask you what's your base value. I want to see my revenue, which is my total revenue, and what's my date? What's my date field? My calendar. Let me just show my calendar. Okay, let me use trade dates, and I can click on add. So the moment I've done that, you see this. You see this gives me the calculation for my revenue by trade date. It's still the same sort of calculation which I generated before. So you have your revenue. First calculate your previous year revenue and your actual year revenue. So, but this section of the calculation they are adding is just that if it's filtered or if it's blank, you shouldn't return empty. Also, so that's what is showing essentially. So it's the same. So you see this creating year-on-year variance. You can use calculations already created in Power BI to solve most of your problems. So okay, okay. So are we done with the quiz? How many people are done with the quiz? I dropped the quiz link again. Please, let's do the quiz. How many people are done with the quiz? If you are done with the quiz, say yeah, yeah, yeah. Are you done with the quiz? And how many people are done with the quiz? Yeah, Busola, we've seen the link. So if you are done with the quiz, how was the quiz? It was easy, right? Okay, so let me wait for people to be done with the quiz. No response yet. Okay. Person.